Hi, this is Lee Ellis with another installment of Leading with Honor Coaching. Well, we're in the month of July 2025, and now we're shortly will be at the 4th of July, which is a celebration of our independence and freedom. It's not just a vacation day. We need to pause and reflect on what our founders did in that time when they signed the Declaration of Independence, because they were taking a big risk. They were taking responsibility, and they were going to be held accountable by the Great Britain, and they had to go to war. And that's what happened. And that was the beginning of our country. And I want you to reflect on that and be thankful for it. I sure am. Well, you know, I think it's important in our reflection to think about what freedom brings. It brings responsibility. You can't do anything and everything. So there's a responsibility. And at our work and at home, we have responsibility. And so in our culture today, I think we're a little bit concerned, you and I are a little bit concerned about responsibility, because we're seeing that a lot of people are not responsible and they're not being held responsible, and there's not much accountability. You know, my daughter has been teaching school, one of my daughters, and she told us recently that she cannot hold children responsible because their parents will come roaring in there and try to blame her and hold her responsible for setting the standards at the school and holding their children responsible. And she's doing it in a kind way, but she's holding them responsible. And so in our culture today, I think you and I have seen so many things in the communications that are coming out, that people are not being responsible, and a lot of them are not held accountable. So, what can you and I do about this? I think we need to think about it, and then let's communicate a message to people about the importance and the value of being responsible. And let's also, in our organization, hold them accountable. And as a leader, I have held people accountable, and I've sent some people to jail. In the Air Force, I sent a guy to jail because he was uh, stealing things, and I cared about him, but I sent him to jail. But I communicated to everyone about that. I think you've got to set standards and hold people accountable. But let's back up again and say that every human being from Adam and Eve has stepped off the line of responsibility. And if you read the Bible, the Old Testament, you see all the great leaders and kings and all who stepped off the line. And today you see it in the politicians, the government officials, people who work for the government and the military. We all have our problems. And in our culture, in our communities, with people who are not being responsible and living up to their commitments. So how can we do that? I think the most important thing is we've got to clarify what it is that they will be responsible for. If you're the leader, you've got to clarify that and draw the line. And that will be helpful to people. I reminded my pilots when I was a squadron commander in the Air Force, every 6 months, I would tell them I really believed in them, I cared about them, but if they violated Air Force flying regulations, I was coming after their wings. And they knew I cared about them because they thought I wasn't real uh, mean and painful. But I wanted them to know that I was going to hold them accountable if they were irresponsible. So if you run an organization, remind people about being, clarify for them about being responsible. So you got to have character, and you got to start with character. You got to have courage. You cannot be responsible and keep up with all the things you're committed to unless you have courage. Courage is the backbone of leadership. And I mention that almost every month, but I coach myself on it every day. And then you've got to be committed. I'm asking you to be committed to help people understand about responsibility and accountability. Help them understand how that is so important for our freedom and our independence, and it will preserve our culture today. It will preserve our country today. It will preserve our freedom today. And that's how we can serve our country today. Take care and God bless.